Call the Village of Johnsburg, February 5th, 2019, regular meeting of the President and Board of Trustees to order at 7 o'clock. On the roll, Trustee McAvoy. Present. Trustee Curry. Here. Trustee Hagan. Here. Trustee Frost. Here. And Trustee Clemstein. Here. Stand for the pledge, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
From the floor, Mr. Keel.
Okay, in Remington Grove, there's no flags on the hydrants. And with the last seizure of snow we had, some of them were buried. Fortunately, the code almost buried them.
Okay.
But this, on a public way, they were just buried.
Well, thanks for bringing that to our attention, and I'll make sure that Kevin gets a hold of Davey and see why there is no flags on them. It should be handled wherever we got a fire-protected system in Remington and Running Brook.
Running Brook has them.
They do?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'll entertain a motion to approve the omnibus agenda.
Move it.
Motion by Trustee McAvoy, seconded by Trustee Frost. Discussion on the motion. Anything that you want to pull? There being none, Trustee Clemstein?
Aye.
Trustee Frost?
Aye.
Trustee Hagan?
Aye.
Trustee Curry?
Aye.
And Trustee McAvoy?
Aye.
Motion carried. I have nothing to report in the President's report, so we'll move on to new business. Move to approve resolution of the Village Board support of the creation of a tax increment district in the downtown. Can I have a motion second, and then we will discuss it?
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Trustee Higgins, seconded by Trustee Frost. Okay. Discussion on the motion, and Sig, you want to lead into that?
Sure, yes, thank you. I brought my prop along to make a point. So I'm Sig Strupp-Manis. I'm with General Capital. We're the developers of this property, of the school property. And what I want to talk about tonight, and our request of the village board tonight, is to approve a resolution that would allow the further exploration of doing a TIF in the downtown area, a tax increment financing district. And what I wanted to do tonight, which at first I know would be met with a lot of skepticism about why we'd be requesting this, but I want to talk about the two sides of this. In other words, why are we requesting it? And I'll be the first to admit there's self-interest of why we want this. But I also want to talk about the village side, which I think is why this is so popular, and basically every project that we've done in the last 5 years in Wisconsin, which is a state that does a lot of TIF district as an economic development tool, has had some form of financial development like that. In Michigan, they use pilots, which are payment in lieu of taxes. Frankly, not as powerful as this, doesn't have as a directive impact, but here we can also use TIF, so we can use this tax increment financing as a tool. So, first of all, what's in it for us? I told you that I brought this as a prop, but basically next week we are submitting what will be an Illinois application. This one is the last one we did in Michigan. This is the application for the tax credits. And it's very similar to what we're doing here in Illinois. But basically, all these different tabs are different scoring categories, are different things that IDA will look at when they look at our application and judge us against the field, and it's always super competitive. I mean, it is actually very difficult to get these deals done. So the two parts of the self-interest that are in it for us with this resolution are, first is a scoring category called leverage, where the state is looking at how much other funding is involved in any improvements associated with the project, off-site, on-site, whatever, and also how much are you asking of the state. And so basically, if we can demonstrate that the village is interested in looking at the TIF, we can use that as a leverage example, and so we get points for that. The second part of that is the community revitalization section, which basically they're interested in supporting projects in communities where the communities are investing in the neighborhoods where these projects are going to be located. In other words, they're doing new parks or infrastructure, they're resurfacing roads, things like that. They want to see that they have skin in the game, so to speak, in the neighborhood where these are going to go.
So there are two parts that are in it for us. The other part of it, in terms of the real dollars here, is that we want to leverage the new tax revenue to basically bring this site onto what I'd call pad-ready par with a normal development site. We recognized early on, we're very open and honest, that we saw challenges as we started to look into how the water service is going to work, how the sanitary was going to work, other things that we needed to do to bring it to kind of pad-ready state. That's really what this is about. It's not a developer incentive. It's not anything that's lining our pockets. I mean, it's just nuts and bolts mechanism to bring the site to, I'm going to call it a normal pad-ready state. So that's all in it for us. From the village's standpoint, what is so awesome about the way that TIF works is that, A, there's zero value right now. There's zero assessed value on the school property. And the way that TIF works is that basically in the first year you'd lock in the base value. And so if you start with zero, you've only got pure increment or pure growth that you can tap. And what you can do is, if no TIF were in place, we'd just be paying our regular property taxes, which we're estimating right now with the assessor, with Bob Ross, it's about $130,000. That's his estimate of what this is going to be paying annually. We're going to be paying those taxes in anyway, right? So two choices are, they go to all the taxing jurisdictions just like normal, or what the village can do is freeze the base level and basically, I call it sweep that increment. They can take that $130,000 and do something with it very directly. And in the analysis that we did, our project alone would generate about $1,850,000 of potential project borrowing capacity, if that makes sense. We applied a borrowing rate of 4.5%, $130,000 a year over the 23 years that would be allowed. $1,850,000 is what our project alone is going to tap. The one thing that I commit to you, and that will always commit to you, is that there will be experts involved from all fields. You're going to have experts. We're going to have our attorneys involved. And what I will commit to you is that we will not put the village in a risk position. Because basically we're paying those taxes anyways. It just is more on the village. What do you want to do with the money? Let's do something constructive with it. Let's have more of a direct impact with that money. So we will work very carefully, and it's already to date, all the good faith effort between the back and forths is the village will not be in a position of risk. We're not going to tap out that $1,850,000. We're going to make sure there's a lot of room there. And if the village wants to expand the tax increment district, we'll work with whatever you want to do. But most importantly is that the resolution that's in front of you and the cost that that we've been kind of analyzing is completely supported by our project alone. So kind of the last thing that I'll say is that some communities have you've heard nightmare stories about TIF that have gone wrong, and a lot of things that happen, it's popular probably, the last 15 or 20 years is to do like new industrial parks where, the village or somebody would buy up a bunch of land, install all the streets and infrastructure, and then wait for the development to come. Well, the development didn't come, guess who had to cover the debt service? The village, right? So this is very different. This is actually, the increment and the payment is guaranteed before you even get the project, before the project is even released, right? So it's very different from somebody going out there and taking a big risk on a whole bunch of improvements and hoping that something's going to happen as a result. This is actually very direct. We're guaranteeing this. The village gets this, to take that money and put it very directly into very public improvements. And it's a really awesome setup. So what we're asking for tonight is basically that a resolution of support that would say that, yes, the village is interested. It's not a commitment tonight. There's still a whole bunch of steps, but just that this sounds like a concept that we can get behind, and we'll use that as we keep moving forward. Does that make sense? And I don't know if I'm talking too much or not enough.
No, I think you're doing great.
Okay.
Are you done?
I'm done.
Okay.
That was it.
I just, yeah, that's perfect. But I just want to, maybe Rick or Greg, to, in our discussions that we had with SIG and the developer and Tim, but you guys, I think Rick brought it up, that we're not guaranteeing any of the payment with village funds, okay? In other words, it's not like a lot of SSAs and stuff that we do where we're backing up the SSA with village money, okay? So, you want to just explain that? If I know Rick's been involved in so many of them, and maybe Tim.
Well, I want to let Tim speak to what our discussion is of what possible things that we would use the money for. But the one thing that I want to stress is that basically, on principle, I'm against these. Okay, and we've looked at them several times in our history. This one really makes sense. The reason why is because you've got a zero tax base right now. So we're not getting any revenue existing off of this. So if this development, and this is necessary for this development to move forward, when this development moves forward, they are going to write, that developer, that home apartment building, is going to write a check to the McHenry County Collector for $130,000 a year.
Right.
Okay? If we don't pass the TIF, that $130,000 would be broken up in the normal manner that your tax bill is. 72% of it would go to the school district, part of it would go to the library, part of it would go to this, and a small part of it would go to us. Okay? Utilizing this vehicle, the school district doesn't have any impact from this, so we don't really have to feel guilty about them not getting an extra $100,000 a year, especially since they're the ones that are selling the property to begin with, so they're already benefiting more than they are right now. They lose the upkeep on the building, which is a substantial amount. So this is a win-win for the school district. And then we can take those payments that we know are real, and we can say, okay, let's get a bond to do infrastructure within the village, to expand things that we do for that whole corridor, and then let's use a portion of this money to pay that, you know, to structure it such that it is. Now, their part of this is they will guarantee up to the value of the improvements that are used on theirs, that if there's a shortfall, that they would cover whatever the bond shortfall with us. So that they've represented all along that, you know, this is not a situation where the residents of the village are going to be at risk. Okay? Now, there's all kinds of things, that opportunities we'll be able to do with that money. That's a separate discussion, and I'm going to let Tim talk about what we originally spoke to them about.
So what I handed out was just an 11/17 color copy of what was in your packet, and that was kind of the starting point a few months ago when Manhart Consulting, their design consultant, contacted us about the site. They wanted to know where the sewer and the water and did they need stormwater management, and so we've covered all that. When they asked about the possibility of consideration of the TIF, we've done these in many other communities, in Lake, McHenry, and all over the 6 counties. So right away, we went to what is the regional or municipal benefit. So everything you see in my letter came from weeks, probably more than a month or so, of discussions. We gave them opportunity to look at doing things on their own, on site. Evaluated the 2 wells that are just shown by little circles by the front door there. Very low production wells. One is inside the building, one's right next to the building. We have no interest in 50-year-old wells that produce 20 gallons a minute. They had an opportunity to rehab them, do their own thing, put the tanks in the basement, yada yada, meet the, and they're choosing, they get higher points for being on a public water main as part of the package. So going all the way back to our sewer master plan, our water master plan, which is built inside of the downtown comp plan, our road rating system and our approach to how we want to get roads done, we applied that. And so the first request was, we heard loud and clear, we moved for code, That 78 apartments, 3-story building, attic space, they need sprinkler system. So they contacted a consultant, we worked with them and their consultants, and we determined that the tanks could be located in the basement where the old boilers used to be. So everything will be on site, they're gonna pay for that, they're gonna own that, they're gonna operate the pump and the tanks, because it's an individual system, exactly like Raymond's Bowl has, exactly like Halftime's has, and if Hogan ever opens, he'll have a miniature one to sprinkle the residents above the bar. So, it's a very common system, very affordable system, and they just so happen to have a very deep basement, which had large boilers in its existence. So, that worked for them. We also, just so everybody knows, maybe you do or don't, but Shiloh Ridge was built by a developer. It was designed by the village here, by us, and there's currently a well house with a hydromatic tank in the well house, and there's a well, and then we have an emergency agreement to hook the hydrants together, because we only have one well there that serves these residents or these lots in Shiloh Ridge. That is currently only for potable water. Does not provide fire protection. All of Utilities Inc. here is potable water only, with the exception of the high school. With the tank that they put there, that was for fire protection of the high school many years ago. And then this subdivision up here was added on, and that is within this system area. This tank here, the little tank off Johnsburg Road, and the well system does not have capacity. So that's why Raymond's Bowl had to add their own fire sprinkler system. Yalmar does not have sprinkler system. And so,
The tanks that are going in the basement,
yeah,
it's strictly for fire suppression?
it's only for fire alarm. If fire alarm goes off, there's a fire, it goes to the zone. Yep, it's all that's required by code. It's the same criteria for its met. Certain use, which is apartment, like residential home or apartment complex, the wall separations, certain details per code, and then the attic spaces will have a dry system in it. There's only one attic space which they created towards the end for that gable end, and that may be even small enough that I can acquire a dry system. But it'll have all the attachment, the Knox box, the hose connection like you see on the front of Halftimes, so that when the fire department rolls up, they'll be able to fight the fire with pumper trucks. Until such time as we get a tank like we have out on the Route 31 corridor, there'll be no fire protection on a municipal basis until we get an elevated tank with certain volumes, at least 500,000 gallons, probably 750. And then we look at the same thing across the river. If and when development ever goes over here, you'll see, another tank possibly with connection to this someday. So one tank somewhere over here to serve the downtown area, and another here potential based on future development down the road. So again, I wanted to show you Shiloh Ridge is all 6-inch water main that was installed back in the early 90s. Ernest is right here, and they're going to tap on Ernest at this location with a 12-inch valve. And in your exhibit, you see that it comes across the school property, comes across our Church Street right away to the east entrance of Bush School, and then they're going to extend a 12-inch water main, which is part of the regional benefit according to the diagram, which shows that it now gets us a starter system, which we're going to point to the west in case additional development comes, and then it provides hydrant coverage. It also gets to their facility, and I just wanted to note that from this main here, none of the costs for the 6-inch service, or the fire pump, or the tanks, or anything related to the sprinkler is included in my numbers as part of what I call municipal or regional benefit. That's something he would have had to do, is if this was a pad-ready site with a sewer and water stuff, they would have just brought them into their building and it would have been all at their cost. So we are going to extend it to the limits of the Johnsburg Road right-of-way, which was always one of our goals, because we will now be right across the street from what's known as the downtown triangle. So it's a huge benefit. It's also providing potable water and potential fire protection for that outlet. So that's why we're extending The 6-inch, you see it identified as public main, with a valve and a hydrant for maintenance. So this will be our system here, and will be set up, which is consistent with the downtown plan to provide water, and to provide sewer, and to provide sidewalks and connectivity. So I'll stop there to see if there's any other questions about the water system.
And before you go on, I know you talked about the fire rated system. It's not there yet, but, and we're backed up by Utilities Inc. at this point in Shiloh Ridge, but there's another well, right? I don't think you mentioned
Yeah, I was
it.
gonna, yep,
Okay.
yeah, part of the package is, on our property in Shiloh Ridge, working with Heman, many years ago, when we developed the first well, we have enough property over here to separate the two. They would alternate, and then if in the event of need, they would both go on. And so they've committed, or this project, these recommended projects, commit to at least 100 gallon a minute well. There's our redundancy. No longer have to rely or hope Utilities Inc. will let us hook. It's an extension of, and it's improvement to the well house, just, adding the power for the new well, adding SCADA and controls so that they alternate, so they communicate with the water operators and the public works staff. And then we even had in here, there's already connections there for a standby generator. So again, down the road, if we want to use some of the funding for a standby gen set, we can. Currently, Davey has to power those down. He borrows one from the guy next door.
We have our own
agreement, but we got our own now, and he pulls it up and connects it on. But having a standby gen set, Utilities Inc. is putting one here in the next few weeks, next to well 7. Again, it's just a lot easier when power snaps off.
Should be there.
Yep. So there's 1,100 feet of 12-inch water main, and then all the hydrants at 300-foot spacing, all the valves, all the isolation, et cetera. So, a public benefit, that's what I put in here, is redundant well for Shiloh and future users. It extends a water main to serve not only the development, the future triangle area of potable water, but it also expands the user base here. And then again, like I said, in the future, if we get the property and we get the funding from future development, now we have a spot. This follows the exact same thought and phased approach we did on Route 31. We picked up the Claremont Hills water system, 100 and some users. We cleaned that system up. We started operating it. We picked up the property where the existing 750,000 gallon tank is today. We worked with developers to pay for water main extensions, for the creation of the well house rehab, all that good stuff. And so, very methodical, so that's why we're building the backbone of the water system. To not only serve this and kickstart this area, but to set the table for the future. When we've met in years past, they're like, cool, you got sewer, where's the water? When we meet with investors or interested developers. So now, you can say we have the water, and so as they keep coming in, we keep adding on to our system. So that's the water. So I'll stop there and answer questions, and I'll go on to the sewer.
Just like, Tim, because maybe everybody wasn't here, but when we did Walmart, it was only for the public improvements. It wasn't for anything that really benefited them.
Right.
So any rebates that were given was given because of, we wanted the building to face north, and we wanted the road in there, and we wanted the different things so we could expand out to the west and the south, really, the Ring Road and the McCollum Lake Road. So the benefits that were given to them because of what we wanted as an advantage to the village. And what we're doing here is, if it's not, it's to our advantage, it's not an advantage to the developer, per se, what we're giving credits for.
Yeah, Walmart, for instance, just real quick, if they just needed the sewer to serve their piece, it probably would have been 8 feet deep. It's actually 18 feet deep right here, so that we can go all the way out to this intersection over here. So that was the differential cost that we said, you're going to do it with your people, you're going to pay for it, we'll give you the sales tax incentive, but we're not gonna have a bunch of lift stations all the way out to Lost Johnson and through those pieces.
Elm Lake and Ringwood Road is
Yes,
what we're
Elm
talking
Lake, Ringwood
It's all
Road,
under
Scotty.
that.
Used to be up there. So they also fully enhanced and improved and went beyond the limits of their project and tied into Remington. And you see how far they blew it out, so we only had to do it once. They expanded the bridge, they enhanced the stormwater management, they wouldn't have done that. Technically, where I got told them to stop, we said, nope, we want it beyond public works, and they did. So it was working together to benefit us, to set the table for us to be, the track trailers down the road. Signalization, that was our first official signal in the village, Route 31.
That we're responsible.
We're responsible for 2 lights, yeah. Anyway, so that's the water.
Really
us,
quickly,
the
we're
system-
gonna be, this will be our system, right?
The water main
Not
extension.
Utilities Inc.
That's correct. This is our system as part of Shiloh. This is the only part of the system that, in the downtown area that we own. And so expanding off that, again, with the redundant wells is a huge benefit
To us.
to us.
They will have a water meter and they will pay a monthly bill like everybody else. This will be our system.
Well, each
They'll
will have a
be
master
the
meter.
sewer
and
and
they'll-
sewer.
They'll have one master meter, and their rents or their whatever will collect it, and we'll get one check. We're not gonna get 78 checks and have to chase 78 people. There won't be 78 water meters.
We'll
in the
just chase
basement.
Sig, he doesn't
We'll
run
chase
that.
Sig, just one master.
Everybody does, so it's...
Yeah. So that's one of the other things we did talk to. So that's the water. The public sanitary sewer, again, if you recall, maybe you don't, so a quick history lesson. We came down up Fairview Avenue, back in the day, we got that money from the state and others, and we put the 15-inch water main in to Church Street. We took a left, headed west, and put it at the entrance to Bush School. And then we picked up everybody on Sunnyside Beach over the last few years. I think everybody's on Sunnyside Beach that was in the SSA. So
Right, up to the right 7 mile there.
Yeah, and then Fairview, the sewer's here. We did put a manhole here for this very reason, just in case there was some development this way or this developed this way. There is 2 services that were put in here, this entrance in here. And then remember, as part of the Church Street project, we extended the sewer to pick up all the residents 2 years ago, so that if and when they're ready, which I think they all got their letters last week, so the 5-year clock is ticking. Yeah, they let me know at the community club they got it, so. So anyway, it was part of the program. Their consultants did evaluate this. There's lift stations here at the existing school, which pushes their existing waste out of their tanks to the field that's located here. They did evaluate, could they hook on here? It was too shallow for them. And then we mentioned that there's a manhole here, and they said that would really work and eliminate the lift stations, everything's low gravity. That's the highest and best use and way to design. And then we extended it to their southwest corner, and then we brought it up as a main because there's a large tract of land in here that would also benefit. So that, to me, is why we put down 940 feet, which is shown on the drawing, coming from Fairview and Johnsburg Road, heading west and terminating at that multi-family building or that apartment building right here. And then we come along the west property line, and that's all public main to this manhole. That allows that apartment building, that future vacant land, which I think is 6 or 8 acres plus in the center section there. And that completes. We've now completed. We have sanitary sewer on Chapel Hill Road. We have sanitary sewer on Fairview. We have sanitary sewer on Johnsburg Road. We have sanitary sewer on Church Street. We have sanitary sewer on St. John's. And we also have sanitary sewer all the way to Birds of Paradise. So our sanitary sewer master plan in this really key area, even in the downtown plan, we speak about that, is complete. And as part of this project, we're adding all the services, extending them to the right-of-way, so that we know what, we don't have to go back into the road after they come through and do the project.
And then there's overlay.
Yep. So again, huge, I'll say, public benefit to serve the triangle. People who live there today can hook onto the sewer, or now if they want to sell in large chunks or whatever, they have the opportunity. The tavern and everything on this side, the north side of Chapel Hill, already has services and everybody is hooked on. Tavern's on the sewer system. It's just not open and using it. But all the properties along Johnsburg Road, there are services already on Fairview, but that opens up, I think we counted 8 or 10 more, plus that big vacant land, vacant development.
I do have a question. Talking about, Bush hooking up to the sewer, is that something we've got to be concerned about with the old septic tanks just laying in there if they're not getting removed?
The septic tanks were included in the cost
Okay,
of abandonment.
gotcha.
So they did get pricing from their
Okay.
general contractor. They can either take the tops off, collapse them, and then pipe around them,
Okay.
abandon them in place. But I believe where they're located, that's what we're talking about. Some building or
Right.
those garage ports, carports.
Okay,
Or the trash corrals, other things. So they included a number to just get rid of the tanks.
gotcha. Thank you.
So that's the sanitary sewer. Yeah, that's another clear benefit. We get 78 more users, at that flow. I did do the calculations with the consultants, a 3-bedroom home, according to EPA rules and our guidelines that set the fees and the volumes, et cetera. Single-family home is 350 gallons a day. A 2-bedroom apartment is 250, and then a 1-bedroom is 200. So you see so it still provides, I think, over 38 RCEs, which one RCE is equivalent to a home. So it's equivalent to 38 homes adding on to that regional lift station, which that thing is always looking for flow to push 11,000 feet up the hill and down the hill and over to the treatment plant. So the more flow we get at the plant, the more efficient it becomes and runs well.
Also, they'll be buying their capacity at the wastewater treatment plant, like any new development would be. When we originally built the plant, it was oversized. So as new people come on, they have to actually go back and pay for the capacity that we've already built and paid for. They are roughly going to be writing a check for, I forgot the number, but somewhere just shy of $250,000, if I remember. It'll go into the sewer fund to help repay money that we've already put out.
The existing residents.
The existing residents will get that back.
Right.
Okay,
They don't
and
pay for that.
They don't pay for that.
Like
And
the new
then
developer.
they'll be paying the new developer fee, and then on top of that, they will get a sewer bill every month also to pay for the operation of the wastewater treatment plant and also for putting money away for future R&M. So this from just the water and sewer funds perspective, this is a very good deal because you've got more users. They're basically paying with the TIF, going to put in all the infrastructure, give it back to the village. We accomplish a lot of what we've always been trying to do. The only thing that's left down here for that downtown water system would be a water tower and a siting place for it, and will be the next challenge we'll have to figure out is how or if we can do that. But once we get the tower in, then we've got a downtown fire-rated system.
And someday that'll look to these guys, which will lower their insurance. It lowers everyone on a fire-rated system. We did the audit with McHenry Township Fire. We gave them all our maps and our data. And again, because of the system, the pressures, the sizing, the heat, it gives a very favorable insurance rating to the businesses and the residents. So we're always trying to do that. So the third item on the last page there is the Johnsburg Road overlay. We're using the same philosophy we did on Fairview, where we put the sewer in. They're going to do a full depth patch, they're going to do all the restoration, and then they're going to go away, and the people can hook onto the sewer, and they'll hook onto the sewer. We're going to let it go through a winter, a freeze thaw, and settlement of that trench will be negligible, but we'll monitor it. And then the following year is where this comes in, is from the limits of the roundabout, just past Schwartzloff driveway, if you know where he's at. Everybody knows where he's at, right? So east through the intersection of Fairview Avenue. We're gonna mill, this is curb and gutter, and we're gonna patch, and then we're also gonna check the trench, and then we're gonna put a major arterial collector pavement section over it, which for about 1,000 feet of road is pretty substantial. Last time we went from here to here with the council of mayor money, that was over $1.2 million. We don't know when and if there'll ever be that type of funding opportunity. They're looking to do more than just overlay projects at council of mayors. They say allegedly it'll be out in 2021, but each and every year, all we've been able to afford is patch to keep it going until such time as there's federal or state money. So to get this project, to get the sewer to them, to serve others, then we come back, and so from the roundabout through Fairview, that's 1,000 less feet we have to look for funding, and who knows when and if we ever be able to do it unless those grants became available. So again, we just paved Fairview a few years ago. We just paved this Fairview section this past 2018 road program. We just did Church Street all the way to short of Spring Grove Road. We just did St. John's. The county just did this, so again, it's just kind of inching our way to our major collector arterials are double, if not triple sometimes, of a normal local road. Local roads in town are 22 to 24. Collector arterials are 34, 36, and maybe bigger. Your turn lanes, there's usually curb and gutter, storm sewer, so it's very expensive. So we felt that that was a real benefit to the village and the region, so that in our 2019 or 2020 and beyond, we can continue to focus on our PACER, our approved road rating system, to knock down the roads that are in our subdivisions and in our neighborhoods and in the areas that need it. So, yeah, that's the point. So, any questions on the road? Good.
One question, Tim. So with the TID, then obviously all this would be prevailing wages, right? So we would have to do these calculations, these numbers. Are
All these
prevailing
are
wages.
counted as if it was being done like a municipal project prevailing wage.
Gotcha, okay.
They also confirm to us that all their contractors they use are union,
Okay.
so it meets that criteria.
Okay.
All of our numbers are 2020 numbers with a 15% contingency on top of them. So it wasn't as if we thought this was going to go in 19, because they're going to be in high competition, as Sig said. In 19 is competition, hope we get selected. If he gets selected, then we got a lot of work left to do still with TIF consultants, attorneys, legal, public meetings, hearings, to make sure all this meets the very strict criteria. So this is just a support, kind of, we'll consider it. That's why you saw my language in here was please consider, because that's all we're asking you to do tonight. It's up to the TIF experts to tell us the next steps, but this would be a key component. So the roadway also included thermoplastic striping and all that good stuff. So that's all in. So that's a huge benefit for us. The last thing was the public sidewalk and trail system. It always talks about it. Did always talk about that, and we always do, is the connectivity of what we did on Church Street with the sidewalks, what we've done on Johnsburg Road with the sidewalks, St. John's, what we're getting done on Fairview, what we've put in for on Chapel Hill. So again, they created a sidewalk system to connect Church Street to Johnsburg Road. They're making them public, so a nice walking connectivity through the development. It's heavily landscaped, it's got sitting areas, it's got activity areas they've shown. And then there's little exercise stations also, so that's all open to the public. So we felt like that was, this isn't a gated community, you get to look in at everything and not use it, so it's kind of a very open field concept, it's heavily landscaped. But again, everything on site related to their building, their elevations, their architecture, their landscaping that everybody asked for, that's all on their project. What we did was as if we were doing a water main project, a sewer project, a road, or a sidewalk. That's how we built this. And so the last deal is from Manhart, which is traditional from a developer or engineer. We get their costs, we work very closely, we went back 3 and 4 times, right? They even brought in their contractors, which was a huge benefit, to cross-check. We have bids we've just received last Q4, and then Q1 already, we've gotten some bids. So we all agreed on the unit prices, we agreed on the lengths, we agreed on the project, and then we attached the contingencies and the appropriate fees. So I just wanted to let you know that we did review it, and it's our recommendation that you just consider the potential for TIF to fund these 4 projects. And anything beyond the boundaries of this, that's for a later date, further discussion of how we want to use it. You heard him say it could generate about 1.8, but like Rick and others said, you know, that what if the tax guy's high at 130? What if it's 100? So we didn't want to push the ceiling to 1.8. So at this time, they're just asking for these 4 items for 1.1 million and some change to be considered. And again, that doesn't mean, I mean, if we want to do projects after this is up and we can pick some,
We
but
can still use some of that money
right.
for other village improvements.
Given thought this yet, but with the sewer work on Johnsburg Road, just curious about traffic, and redirecting people down Church Street, or?
No, we're actually gonna leave 1 lane open at a time. We've allowed them, and we ourselves have done it, where we will be going down the westbound lane, and we'll be going between the wheel lanes. And so the westbound lane will be closed, but through flaggers and the extra width of Johnsburg Road, when they're doing construction, they'll be able to keep that road open. We've also required, or the village and your board approved the access for all construction off of Johnsburg Road, so we'll have a very well lit, identified construction access, their fencing, signage, et cetera, the stabilized entrance, trucks coming on and off, they'll be responsible to keep it.
3-inch stone and all that good stuff.
You got it, yeah. And we were not looking to close the road, just 1 lane during normal operations.
The last meeting, there was a lady here that was concerned about being forced into sewer. I don't know if you remember that. I think her son lives in the house and she lives in the county or something, but she said she was on Church Street. So those letters you mentioned, those went to everybody?
Yeah, that was in for what the board approved.
That's what we approved over a year ago with the 5-year plan.
Right.
So they have 5 years to hook up. Okay.
So for her concern, 2 unrelated things.
Correct.
It's already been done.
And when the Church Street project was going, prior to putting the services in, our team met with every single owner and property owner, and we put the service exactly where they wanted it. We've given them pictures, locations, as-bills, and we've even given them a little map to fill out the permit. We gave them the names and addresses of contractors, et cetera. It's all gravity there.
Right.
So nobody's got E1, nothing, so it's a pretty straight deal. So a few people have already come in and pulled permit and hooked on St. John's and on Church Street.
Fortunately, we got them there before there was a lot of new systems, which most of those systems are probably 50-plus years old, you know, so we're not fighting that battle where I just put in a new.
When I built in Jackana, the next door neighbor had one little pipe coming out of their tank that was like 20 foot long, and that was it.
That was it?
Yeah. That's that Marion. Yeah, that was nice.
Works fine.
Yeah. I'm not, and maybe Sig, you can tell me, but Bob Ross, who is Bob Ross?
Sorry, that is the McHenry County Chief Assessment Officer.
Okay, so he's above Mahady.
That's what the deal's at.
Okay.
That wasn't the painter guy from Channel Rock.
Any other discussion? I just want to go on record that Trustee Hutchinson was unable to be here tonight. She's expressed that she would not be in support of any type of TIF district, so I just want that to be recorded in the minutes and be part of the record. Any further discussion? Mr. Keel, I saw you had your arm up there, so we're gonna give you a minute.
Be the devil's advocate, if this thing falls down, okay, the time and money the village will have expended pursuing this, that's just,
It's been all paid
It's
for
all
by the
paid for by
developer.
him. He has a developer account. He has to set that account up
Yeah.
before we did it. All the attorney's fees are being paid by them. Tim's fees are being paid by them. There's no money being expended by the village.
And there's a lot of work going on right now, let me tell you there.
okay, so how, and this is a loaded question, how sure, you can't be sure that this is gonna
Yeah.
go? I mean, 50%.
So Abe, we wouldn't be spending the time or energy or money that we're spending on this if we didn't feel confident about it. We'd be wasting our time, right?
Okay.
But I'll say that this kind of stuff that's what makes a difference. You know, I mean, so when we do this stuff, we really have to go for every single maximum point, and there have been years where 1 point out of a 200-something point system has made the difference of getting a project or not. You know, so, right now our consultants are feeling, good, you know, in terms of all the stuff coming together. We look at all the point scoring. In other years, we would have been allocated, but who knows? This year's a new year, you know, and there's a lot of competition. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know.
So what's the timing? So you submit
Yeah.
next week?
We
then what-
submit, end of next week, and then I want to say, I'll probably be getting this wrong by, you know, weeks or so, but I want to say that in April, May, we hear, something like that. And once we hear about it, then I would say the real work starts, then the real serious due diligence starts. That's when you really start expending a lot of money. And I would say that before we close on the property, on a typical deal, we spend about $300,000+ before the deal's closed. Once the deal's closed, obviously all the financing is in place, but that's where it really becomes a big risk. But we've one time failed to close a deal in our 20-year history, and that was because of a crazy circumstance. But I always have to say that there's one time when we got allocated credit and we didn't close. So in other words, if we get that credit, I feel super confident, and we put a lot of money on the line that we're going to go forward. You know, so it's not like we're just rolling the dice with 10 different projects and then cherry picking which ones look good to us. We're going to do this if we get the credit.
The residents along Johnsburg Road where the new sewer will go, we'll have to talk to them about a 5-year plan or something like that.
Be the same requirements that we've given everybody else. It will just start at a different time. Everybody else is on the same time frame, like Fairview, Church Street, St. John's.
It's after it's officially tested, inspected, and can accept flow, is when the village makes the call as to what that date is, and then that's what sets the letters.
If their septic would fail after that time period, then they have to hook up, right? By the
If
county,
their septic-
it's a county standard.
That's a
not-
county
it's not-
standard.
County Health Department
County
will
Health
require them to
Department.
hook up if that's available. And then the other thing is that, once we get into this, we'll notify the health department that it's there, so.
Yep, every year, or whenever we add on to our system, we send them updated maps, and that's where they, you know, take their measurements from commercial as a greater distance to be forced onto the sewer, and the residential slightly smaller, a couple hundred feet.
Might be a question for Michael more than 10, but do we record this on the tax ID number, since somebody tries to sell the property, the future owner would know that there would be this requirement? We hope that the seller would be honest about that, but it's outside of our control, but.
It's the realtor's problem, isn't it?
We've already had somebody come in at Fairview a year and a half ago with that question, so I was just trying to make sure that we're putting that in place.
All those realtors trying to dance
So,
around.
no, they should disclose.
I'm just kidding. Trustee McAvoy.
So the hookup fees and the connection fees and everything for Johnsburg Road is going to be the same as what we did for Sunnyside Beach?
Yes. It'll be the same fee, we kept all those fees the same, I think,
Right.
correct?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, so it would be the same fee as we are,
Going.
what everybody's getting on Church Street, Fairview, St. John's, and Sunset Beach.
I had a good question. Might be a silly question, but I'd like to
And I'll
know.
double check on that, because I
It's going
want to
over
make
me,
sure,
but-
I want to make sure that I'm sure of that, okay? But yeah, the intent would be, and we're, you know, publicly stating we want to keep that fee somewhere around there and keep it affordable so we can keep hooking up people. And there's a benefit to us to do that. Yes, Rick?
I think the conversation about that, my understanding of it is
Oh, I'm sorry.
that, that might be adjusted by the rate of inflation.
Oh, right.
You know, that was the discussion, but that ultimately
That's
would be
in the
a
letter.
board decision.
It's in the letter.
That's
Yeah,
in the
states
letter.
that every
The rate
rate
of
of
inflation is in, there's an
But, I
adjustment.
mean, yeah, but I mean, stepping out the door initially, it's X amount, and then it goes up a few percent.
Yes.
Incrementally.
Goes up,
Over the next
it
5
goes
years.
up in increments over the 5-year period.
That's correct.
Kyle?
Back to my silly question.
Yes.
Explain to me what happens after the 23 years. The TIF district runs out, correct?
It's paid off.
Paid off, done, then just goes back to yearly.
Then the money goes to the different taxing bodies.
Right.
Okay.
That's just like a normal deal. Now, the funny thing about this is, and this is very unusual, and I just want you to clarify this. Your property tax amount that you pay is not predicated upon the assessed value of the property, but is predicated upon the rents. Is that accurate?
The assessed value is generated by the rents. In other words, income-based approach, like a commercial property would be.
Versus fair
So
value.
Versus fair value, it's
So
a
it's
Not
tab.
based on the $20 million.
There's three different ways of
Right.
assessing property.
That's what I mean.
Income approach is just like
Right,
a
with a cap rate, cap rate approach.
So, being that the taxes aren't going to the library, fire district and all, do we have any kind of obligation to them to?
Yes.
We have an obligation to have a hearing.
They'll have a seat at the table at all the public.
Yeah, obligation to what, trustee Curry, finish your sentence.
Well, do they get something out of this? You know, is it, are they just
Yeah, I
cut
mean,
out for the 23 years?
yeah, I mean, besides, you know, I would encourage the village to reach out to him to say, this is what we're thinking about, this is what's coming down the pike. At some point, the consultants that are retained here will be preparing a report to see if this area does qualify as a TIF district. And there's criteria. You look at the state of the building codes, if there's violations, if there's obsolete platting at this point. And that's why what I've tried to work with Claudette, and Claudette worked with SIG, was in terms of, this is subject to that plan coming forward, that plan stating that the property is subject to a TIF. And yes, as President Henderman points out, there is what is convened as, it's called a joint hearing board, in which the report is sent out to the taxing bodies ahead of time. They all get together for a meeting, and they express support or not for the plan. Even if there's not a majority vote, I think that in favor of it, I think the village can still pass it with a supermajority vote. In my experience, most of the taxing bodies are in favor of the TIF in situations like this. I'm always sensitive to the impact on the school district. In other places, the school district has been neutral. Sometimes the school district opposes it because they're the ones who receive the largest amount of funds. Some of the concern or apprehension I may have normally wouldn't be present here because presumably the school district is supportive of this. So there's not going to be tension between the school district and the village over this TIF. Presumably as well, the school district is not going to be asking for some sort of agreement with the village that says, please reimburse us if students come into the TIF district and come into our schools, as is present elsewhere.
This is small.
Yeah.
Right.
Age restriction.
Yeah, no students are gonna
Right.
become, so.
And so, the assurance I have, the reason I'm comfortable with this at this point is that this is subject to all those public hearings. We're not saying unequivocally we're establishing TIF or this is met the criteria for TIF. No, there's a certain order. There's a public hearing on whether we're going to go ahead with the TIF or not. There's ordinances that would have to be considered. And this is all subject to a development agreement. I also feel comfortable insofar as Sig pointed out, there are examples in which a village's credit is put on the line. There are nightmare scenarios such as that, I believe it's in Park Ridge, which used a TIF to establish a parking garage that has not derived the revenue that they thought it would, and that goes into the bottom line. As long as here that our general credit is not being pledged, the general corporate funds, and it's more like an SSA. So typically with an SSA, for issue an SSA bond, that's not typically village finances being pledged. It's just the SSA revenue. I think that's analogous here in terms of we're just pledging whatever revenue we get, we receive, we give to you. If for some reason, you know, someone holds up SIG at the county treasurer's office, doesn't let him pay the property tax check, we're not going to be responsible for that. We're not liable. We're just passing on what we get. We're a conduit. And so I think with those qualifications in this resolution that I worked on, and presumably I think Sig and Claudette ironed out, I'm comfortable with this resolution at this point. Given these circumstances, it's unusual in which the village is helping a former property to the school. And then two, what you'll also see with TIF districts is someone say, well, you know, village pledge its general obligation, its faith, its funds. And then two, what happens? What happens if the building that's going to be constructed is only halfway built? Or even worse, what happens where the village is donating some of the land? Well, there's less risk here. There's less out-of-the-box scenarios because the building's there. I understand things can sputter theoretically with the rehabilitation, but there's less risk where someone's not putting up a brewery. You know, it's vacant property and the money's being put behind it. And gee, what happens if things fall apart like they did with Tyvek Tower in Algonquin? What do we do when the building's only halfway finished and there's all these liens and it's stopped and it was frozen for years? I don't think that level of risk is the situation here. Our work is done being internally rather than an entire new structure being built. This isn't the construction of the Dallas Cowboys Stadium. This is work internal that, you know, say work stops, say that there is a fight with the developer and the general contractor for several months, residents aren't going to say, oh my God, it's a huge eyesore, you know, the drywall inside the school is not being finished. I don't think that same risk is present here with this situation.
I don't believe the school board has had a meeting since we met with them, so I don't know if the whole board would go along with it. They've indicated with the people that we've met with that they're okay with it, okay? The indication we got is as long as it doesn't include anything else but the school property.
Well, frankly, I think this benefits the school district. We're not putting more students into the system, and they just got that 41 million that they...
It benefits all of us because we're all taxpayers. We're all taxpayers, and if you look at your tax bill, 70% of it's going to the schools, so how does it not benefit us would be pretty, you know, it benefits every taxpayer in the village. So, you know, plus the scenario that sitting there, it's costing them $50 grand a year, or just about 50, somewhere in that neighborhood, you know, between 30 and 50. And there's some other repairs that will maybe need to be doing if they hold on to it. You know, sits there another 5-10 years, you could be talking another 250 at $500,000.
Yeah, honestly, it's a double-edged sword for those guys. I mean, the TIF comes in, they're not getting the revenue, but they're still sitting on it.
Well, they're not getting any impact either.
Now, how will this apply to any surrounding properties?
Go ahead.
Anything else from the downtown district? Will this apply to anything else besides just this singular property?
This time it applies to that property.
Just the one property?
Yeah, the legal description for the TIF would be around their legal for their
Just
piece.
their...
Well, if we talk about including the outlot,
Yeah, what about the outlet?
yeah, well, the nice thing is that the outlot that is still undefined, that could be additional value that just adds to the tax payment, you know.
The school property.
So we talked about the
which
school
includes the
property.
outlet would be the district.
Okay.
Will there be any benefit to excluding an outlot from the TIF?
Probably not to the village.
Yeah, I mean,
Because we capture more of the revenue.
Yeah, the only thing would be a timing thing if that.
We're able to expand
you know.
on that TIF with other improvements.
Yeah.
Pay it out faster too, right? That calculation, yeah.
Assuming it gets developed. I mean,
That gets developed, that's right.
I mean,
They planned
in
it.
scenarios where there's hundreds and hundreds of acres, people maybe do expansions, but in this case, you know, it makes sense to do this.
It's good questions, we wanna see it develop, so, you know, if that's what it takes, I think we'd,
Yeah.
So then if it does get developed, it would be included within the
Correct.
the district? Okay. Cedarburg Winery.
Could be. We have a new distillery, actually.
okay? Any other questions for Tim, Michael? Any other discussion? So, with there being none, on the roll, we'll call for support. Yes is, support of the resolution. No is not. Trustee Klumstein?
Yes.
Trustee Frost?
Yes.
Trustee Hagan?
Yes.
Trustee Curry?
Yes.
Trustee McAvoy?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks for coming out.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Really appreciate it.
Okay,
It's done enough.
move to approve IDOT resolution.
So moved.
Motion by trustee Curry, seconded by
Second.
trustee Hagan. Discussion on the motion. Discussion on the motion? Questions? No? Nothing? With there being none, on the roll, trustee McAvoy?
Aye.
Trustee Curry?
Aye.
Trustee Hagan?
Aye.
Trustee Frost?
Aye.
And trustee Klumstein?
Aye.
And move to approve resolution in support of the state of Illinois capital bill to fund Metra Rail. Motion? Trustee Curry? Second it. Trustee McAvoy? Discussion on the motion or questions?
Are we one of hundreds of municipalities sending this type of thing, or what are we,
Tim, it's an IML thing, isn't it?
It's, yeah,
Or
it is,
more of
but it's really for
Mackay.
the communities that are served by the Metro. So it's the 6 Collar counties, those that are served. So if Metro doesn't go there, they don't
They don't.
ask this, they'll get asked.
And they probably don't care. Any other questions? If there being none, trustee Klumstein?
Aye.
Trustee Frost?
Aye.
Trustee Hagan?
Aye.
Trustee Curry? Trustee McAvoy? Motion carried. Is there any committee reports? Anybody have anything that they want to report on? Or we'll leave it go to the next meeting, because I know everybody wants to go see the State of the Union address.
Well, my guys are working their butts off.
Kudos to you and your guys, yeah, doing a great job out there.
They're out
Okay.
walking right
Making
now.
Johnsburg safe.
Can we have a motion to adjourn, please?
So moving.
Motion by trustee McAvoy, seconded.
second?
Trustee Hagan, on the roll, trustee Klumstein. Trustee Frost. Trustee Hagan. Trustee Curry. Trustee McAvoy.